got the top spot, everybody under me. If I ain't in your top 5, fuck it, I don't wanna be.
Smoking on top 5s. Stop playing, I'm that guy. Everybody claim to the best and they had the throne since Big is gone. If you ask me, they dead wrong.
Who's next to flip on that cat with that grip on rap? The most shady, Frankie baby.
Who really the best rapper since Big ain't here? Y'all know the answer to that when Kiss ain't here.
I dropped that Black album, then I back out it as the best rapper alive. Again, X about me. Now here's a list of MCs that could kill you in 8 bars. 50, Jay-Z and Nas.
The top 3, I'm not number 1, how could you post that? I would have crowned, the city is mine, you cannot hold that.
The king of New York lays his crown in the boogie down and sprays the town with the Mac hoodie down. I'm no joke.
The world's greatest, Las Vegas paid his rock. Skin painted on my face, look ageless.
What the deal is, never forget what real is. The cat that used to say X the best, no he still is.
I couldn't, shouldn't, and it'll stay that way. The best rapper you've heard is LL Cool J.
Black, my back in the day, Shorty and 12A. The best rapper from the hood, that's where the belt stays.
Since the moon separated from Earth, that's why they say I'm the greatest that ever orchestrated a burst.
Me, I'm a product of Rakim, Lakim, Shabazz, Tupac, W.A.Q, hate that ring, yellow easy, thank you, they got slim.
Everything I do ends with you curious. Stop looking for the best rapper, goddamn, here he is.
Welcome back to the biggest hip-hop tournament in history, in which we determine the greatest rapper of all time, given a list of 1,024 rappers in total. In order to achieve this goal, I created 32 brackets and let my fans vote for their favorites. Just like in the previous episodes, I'll give my thoughts on the results of the voting. This video is the last part of the 5-episode series and covers the finals, which brings together all the winners and runner-ups of the first 4 parts in 2 separate brackets. We are now down to 64 rappers, and by the end of this video we will have a full ranking from 1 to 64. If you haven't seen the results of the previous brackets yet, then make sure to check out part 1 to part 4. Anyway, let's finish this tournament. I copy-pasted the list of winners and runner-ups into a randomizer, so that we can have unbiased and fair brackets, without me being able to manipulate it the way I want. Which means I created the brackets in the exact same order with the exact same matchups determined by this website. Now, the problem with this approach is that I have the worst luck ever. The matchups in the first round were just terrible. We had multiple top 5 MCs competing against each other, and they got kicked out in the first round. Tupac versus Biggie, Eminem versus Nas. It almost seemed like the best of the best tried to kick each other out as fast as possible, while rappers you wouldn't even put in your top 50 could just walk through the tournament casually and without having anything to worry about.
Oh, hell no.
Bracket 32.5. I created this one as a bonus round before the finals. It brings together all the runner-ups of the first 4 parts of the tournament and will give us the spots from number 64 to number 33. Snoop Dogg vs Fat Joe. Love both to the same degree. Impact, influence and status-wise, definitely Snoop. I mean, Snoop is everywhere. In commercials, video games, songs all around the world, basically the face of the West Coast. Even if you have no clue about hip-hop, it's more than likely that you have heard about him or seen him at least once. Wrote lyrics for Dr. Dre, was holding down the West Coast during the East-West conflict, and impacted the game in terms of style, swagger and smoothness. Fat Joe was probably the more skilled MC though. More lyrical, more diverse in terms of content, a larger vocabulary, more aggressive, has way more energy on his songs, and uses a wider variety of flows. And I would also pick him in a battle. The music aspect is of course debatable, and really depends on my mood. Doggy Style is better than every Fat Joe album, but the remaining projects in Snoop's catalog can't really compete with it. I mean, he did drop hits with most of his releases until the late 2000s, but he lacks consistency in my opinion. Most of his albums contain a large amount of filler songs that I don't like going back to. Always preferred Fat Joe's projects like Represent, Jealous One's Envy, Don Cartagena, Jealous One's Still Envy. Loyalty was great as well, and he also had hits on the remaining albums. In a versus, Snoop would probably be the victor, as he has bigger hits. A lot of my favorite Fat Joe songs wouldn't do well in a versus. But I still prefer Fat Joe's music, especially his grimy stuff early on. Not a fan of his pop and mainstream attempts. Fat Joe the Gangsta is more my cup of tea. DITC, Terror Squad and all those mafioso records, I think his catalog is a little underappreciated. Don Cartagena especially. That album is just phenomenal to me. That being said, Death Row Snoop was a beast too. All those hits he had with Dre, The Dog Pound and Pac. It's a shame that he went the pop route later on in his career. But anyway, I think Fat Joe is a superior rapper overall. Agree with Busta Rhymes over AZ, rapping and catalog wise. And for the next one I have to apologize, cause I accidentally put Run in the bracket instead of DMC. Run actually got eliminated in the semi-finals of the third bracket, while DMC became the runner-up of bracket 2. So I guess I somehow made a mistake when taking notes. But it doesn't really make much of a difference, both are on the same level rapping wise. Anyway, Jadakiss should have definitely won against DMC, as he's overall the better rapper. His lyricism and technical skills are far more advanced. We saw him lyrically destroy 50 Cent and Beanie Sigel. Don't think DMC could do the same, but he's of course more influential and overall did more for the culture, as he was one of the people who reshaped hip-hop in the mid-80s. I spoke about this in detail in part 1, so make sure to check it out. Music-wise it's of course debatable, although most people would probably pick Run DMC's music, but I personally love both, and it's hard for me to pick one over the other, cause they are so different. Huge fan of the Lux, Jada's solo work and also every Run DMC album. It just depends on my mood, but you could say that Run DMC had the more groundbreaking and game-changing music. Their catalog just stood out more. They have way more classic albums. In case of a battle, I would definitely pick Jada. He could crush most MCs in this bracket. DMC's rapping style is a little outdated and can be perceived as rusty compared to Jada, and lyrically there's just no real comparison. Kiss should have definitely won this in my opinion. Anyway, Denzel definitely better than Nelly, also agree with your ranking for Mos Def and Childish Gambino. LL Cool J over Juice WRLD is more than agreeable, kinda shocked that he made it so far, as his rapping skills were mediocre at best. And I also agree with King Crooked over Vince Staples. Crook would make shish kebab out of him in the battle. And Vince's catalog also grew off me heavily. Disagree with RZA over Kool G Rap. I don't want to discredit the Resurrector here, as he gave us some of the best hip-hop beats in history. But rapping wise, aside from his vocabulary of course, he was never really seen as a top 10 MC. He's often criticized for his unorthodox flow, cadence and his quote-unquote inability to stick to a subject when he's rapping. I hear it all the time. People say he's all over the place, and they rarely rank him as the best Wu-Tang member even though he's the leader of the group. But me personally, I love his style. It's unique and fits him perfectly. But it does occasionally set him back when he's rapping with non-Wu-Tang members, especially on beats that don't match his style. Or maybe it's his inability to adapt to every beat. He gets easily outshined by people who have a better cadence than him, those who can resonate more with the beat. Kool G Rap for example. They rap together on songs like Cakes and The Anthem. On both songs, G-Rap had the better verse and clearly outshined him.
Still staple tales, MCs get to live staple. Project Chiller Hill is stamped on the map like the compass.
Sometimes it sounds like RZA is reading off verses with big words and too many syllables in each bar, so that he has to change his rapping speed with every line. G-Rap on the other hand has a flawless sense for rhythm, and has mastered the use and the positioning of syllables. When making use of long rhyme chains he can just flow smoothly, while keeping a consistent pace instead of sounding almost like a defunct washing machine that is off rhythm. And this is not a jab at RZA, I actually love his rapping style, but it can sound irritating once in a while depending on the song. Like on The Anthem for example. People to this day say that he had the worst verse, and that G-Rap along with other MCs like Eminem, Tech 9, Exhibit, Gino XL, KRS-One and Pharoah Monch have out-rapped him. RZA is not really known to outflow other rappers. G-Rap on the other hand is not easy to out-rap. He shines on every verse with dope punchlines, long rhyme chains, smooth flows, clever wordplay and great storytelling. And that's another thing that RZA can't do so well compared to G-Rap. His flow oftentimes makes it too difficult for me to follow and feel his stories. He also lost quite a few battles, like for example against Mooney D, Supernet, Capadonna and Cannabis. G-Rap's ability to adapt to certain styles and beats seems to be superior. Like for example when he's rapping with Cannabis, he switches to battle and punchline modes to match Cannabis' style, while doing just as good or even better. When he's rapping with Nas, he's more of a storyteller. And when he rapped with Mobb Deep, he almost sounded like a third member of the group. In Bruce Lee's words, Kool G Rap is like water.
Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
He seems to be the more versatile artist, and overall I think he would crush RZA in a battle. just with his superior punchlines, wordplay, flow, cadence, and his gangster rap-ish rapping style. Which leads us to the next topic. His impact on the game was far greater, especially for gangster rap, more specifically mafioso rap. He was actually one of the first to do it. Raekwon, Nas, Biggie, Jay-Z, and tons of other mafioso rappers were all inspired by him. I spoke on this in detail in part 3 of the tournament, and also in the beef analysis for Biggie and Half of New York. So yeah, G.O.A.T should have definitely won this in my opinion. He is in my personal top 10. Exhibit, catalog, and impact-wise definitely superior to Cassidy. Also in terms of storytelling, style, flow, delivery, energy, and voice. Lyrically, it's of course debatable. He's much more of a punchline artist compared to X, but his lyrics oftentimes lack depth and meaning. It seems like he has a difficulty in making deep, insightful, and relatable songs. You can feel Exhibit's music more as he puts a lot of pain and personal stories in his lyrics that you can sympathize with or relate to. Cassidy's rapping style is one-dimensional, and sometimes he just focuses too much on punchlines without having a clear song structure with coherent bars while sticking to a theme. That's why his catalog lacks hits and he can't make music with replay value. Unlike X, who has dozens of classic hits and far better production on every album. Rick Ross definitely not better than DJ Quick. I went on like a 5-minute rant about him in part 3 of the tournament. But to sum it up, he's a mediocre at best lyricist, has a one-dimensional rapping style, uses the same flow and raps about the same topics in most of his songs, has a skippable catalog, a weak delivery, a sleepy voice, and lacks authenticity. Battling-wise, he didn't really impress when he was beefing with 50 Cent and G-Unit.
I handle homo solo.
DJ Quick has a far better catalog, a better pen game, and has performed well in battles. Dollars and Cents is to this day one of the hardest diss records ever. He crushed MC8, Everlast, and he would have also destroyed Rick Ross if both of them were in their primes. Officer Ross should be nowhere near the top 64, or the top 500. Just like Playboi Carti and Kid Cudi. At last we got rid of the delusional skinny jeans wearing 14-year-old Reddit trolls. ODB is not a better rapper than PMD in my opinion. Parrish has a way better delivery, pen game, storytelling, punchlines, wordplay, and he could also lyrically defend himself pretty well. Like for example against his partner Eric Sermon, when they were beefing with each other. EPMD is one of my favorite duos of all time. Love all their albums and even their solo projects. ODB wasn't a lyricist, people just loved him for his unorthodox style. He was like the personification of the drunken fist, which refers to styles of Chinese martial arts that imitate movements of a drunk person. ODB's flows were all over the place and unpredictable, and so were his lyrics. It was a great addition to the Wu-Tang Clan, which drew a lot of inspiration from Chinese martial arts movies. But ODB was never really seen as one of the top tier MCs of the group. His lyrics were not that great and he would easily lose in a battle, at least against PMD, who was a much more focused and serious MC. Ghostface Killah definitely better than Nate Dogg. I really regret adding him seeing how far he got in the tournament. Just wanted to give him credit for inspiring melodic rappers and felt like it was wrong to leave him out while including artists like Post Malone, Murray, Rod Wave, Juice WRLD and Roddy Ricch. But yeah, Ghost is superior. Tech 9 vs Lupe Fiasco is debatable. I think Lupe is a superior storyteller, has way more meaning in his raps, a superior vocabulary and better punchlines than Tech, who in return trumps Lupe in terms of technical abilities, rhyme schemes and flows. Lupe can't rap like Tech, he doesn't focus on the amount of syllables he can rhyme per second or on fast-paced flows, which is Tech 9's main focus on most of his songs. It can be a little repetitive and one-dimensional for people like me, who are not the biggest fans of chopper-style rap. Catalog-wise I also prefer Lupe. Impact-wise I would probably give it to Tech though. He left a far bigger mark on the game. His style is still copied by hundreds of rappers these days, especially wiggity whack YouTube rappers. They seem to be obsessed with Tech's ability to rhyme as fast as possible, and that's the only thing they copy. Their lyrics have no substance or qualities. But back to the topic, Lupe lacks energy and overall just sounds like he's too soft to intimidate his opponents. Backpack rappers can also sound a little corny at times, which you should definitely avoid in a battle. He would probably still have the superior punchlines and personals like when he battled Royce the 5'9". Tech 9's style and energy on the other hand would play to his advantage. It's the exact opposite of sleepy woke backpack rap. Joyner Lucas is not a better rapper than Papoose. Fuck outta here. On no level. Content, flows, vocabulary, punchlines, wordplay, diversity, catalog. Joyner in 2022 is trash to me. I can't believe I was a fan of this guy. No clue how he made it to the top 64. I mean, he creates the same song over and over again for the last 4 years. Didn't even manage to put out the dope album, even though he postponed it like 20 times. And ended up becoming a generic Walmart version of Lil Baby, who's also a whack rapper in my opinion. Papoose would easily annihilate him in a battle. Eric Sermon is not a better rapper than Master Ace. Love EPMD, but Master Ace was always the superior MC. He could lyrically crush MCs in battles and has superior technical skills. He was actually one of those MCs that Eminem mimicked early on in his career. Em studied his style and flow and also was impressed by his pen game. Master Ace has also a better delivery, better flows, punchlines, a superior vocabulary, and he never stopped dropping dope songs decades after his prime. Battling wise, I would also put my money on him. But both have an amazing catalog and I love all of their albums.
And as far as battling goes, ever front on me, nigga.
Round 2. Disagree with Snoop Dogg over Busta Rhymes. I think Busta managed to stay consistent in terms of discography, and in contrast to Snoop, he's still able to put out great music to this day. Extinction Level Event 2 was one of my favorite albums in 2020, but I can't remember the last Snoop Dogg album I enjoyed. The Coming, When Disaster Strikes, Extinction Level Event 1, and even in the 2000s he managed to put out enjoyable albums. Snoop on the other hand peaked relatively early and became much more of a hit artist than what you would call an album artist. And nowadays he's just mediocre at doing both. That being said, Doggy Style is still better than any Busta Rhymes project. But after that it kinda went downhill for him. And Busta Rhymes managed to surpass him in terms of album consistency. He's also superior in terms of rapping skills in my opinion. Lyricism, vocabulary, punchlines, wordplay, technical skills, and he also has a wider variety of flows. Slow, fast, smooth, aggressive, choppy, or all over the place like Old Dirty Bastard. Of course not everybody is going to like every single one of his flows, especially when he's a little offbeat, but Busta always made it sound enjoyable in my opinion. Always entertaining and comedic. Snoop has overall the better cadence, but is a little more one-dimensional when it comes to flow. Always laid back, smooth, rarely gets out of his comfort zone, and it can get a little repetitive if you're doing a deep dive on his music. I think Busta can rap like Snoop, but Snoop can't rap like Busta, as his verses are harder to perform and much more sophisticated in terms of lyricism and flow. But Snoop definitely had a bigger impact on the game. Agree with DMC from Run DMC over Denzel Curry in terms of music and impact, but skill-wise Denzel is most likely more advanced. Agree with LL Cool J over Mos Def in terms of catalog, battling and impact. RZA over King Crooked in terms of catalog, impact and lyricism, but not in terms of flow, cadence and battling. Exhibit in all aspects superior to Rick Ross, no clue how he didn't get eliminated earlier. ODB superior to Kid Cudi, Ghostface also better than Tech 9, lyrically, catalog and probably also in terms of battling, but Joyner Lucas over Eric Sermon is just delusional. Pick any EPMD album, it'll have more hits and bangers than Joyner's entire catalog. Strictly business, unfinished business, business as usual, business never personal, back in business and out of business are all classics to me. Joyner doesn't even have a classic song. His lyrics, flow and style is generic and repetitive, and aside from that he has no importance to the hip-hop culture. Removing EPMD from the history books would have worse consequences for the genre than removing Joyner Lucas or the rappers he's trying to copy. I mean, forget about the classic albums, without EPMD we wouldn't have the group Hit Squad, which consists of Redman, K Solo, DJ Scratch, Das Effects, Hurricane G, Jesse West, Top Quality and Knuckleheads. Eric and Parrish were basically pushing and mentoring them as they blew up first in 1988 before the rest of the clique. And the second group, Def Squad, would also not exist, which means Keith Murray and Jamal's careers would also be affected. So impact and catalog wise it shouldn't even be questioned that Eric is superior. And I think it's pretty obvious who has the superior rapping skills. Joyner Lucas started off great, but now he's just terrible. Painfully generic lyrics, can't address topics in depth, and thus is limited to name drops only, can't add intelligent commentary or bring anything new to the table when discussing certain topics in his lyrics. A perfect example for his lyrical capabilities is the song Ye Not Crazy, in which he doesn't even explain why Ye is not crazy.
How do you spell crazy? G-E-N-I-U-S.
The title of the song is the only piece of information you draw from the verses, and you don't even hear any arguments, opinions, explanations, or anything about the topic he's trying to address. Everything he does is just surface level and generic. He makes use of the same formula, the same song structure, and the same flows for all of his songs. But whatever, round 3. Agree with Snoop over DMC from Run DMC, LL Cool J over RZA, but ODB ain't better than Exhibit. I think nobody would disagree with me when I say X has the superior solo catalog. And lyrically he's far more advanced, on all levels, vocabulary, punchlines, wordplay, storytelling, content, and also in terms of diversity. ODB's style was definitely one of a kind and very enjoyable, but there's not even a 1 in a million chance that he would have won in a rap battle against X. And Ghostface is of course worlds better than Joyner Lucas. Semifinals. You can't be serious. Snoop is not a better rapper than LL Cool J. On no level. He himself will tell you that LL is more important to the culture. He always looked up to him and got inspired by his music. L was the leader of the new school and made the whole ladies man persona popular in hip hop. Already explained you how I feel about Snoop's discography. Very inconsistent. LL Cool J had 8 dope albums. Radio, Bigger and Deffer, Walking with a Panther, Mama Said Knock You Out, 14 Shots to the Dome, Mr. Smith, Phenomenon and G.O.A.T. He gave us tons of hits and classic hip-hop anthems with every album. Not just club bangers and songs for the ladies like people always say, but also hardcore raps and battle records. LL just loved to battle, even these people he rapped with on the same song. Like for example Cannabis on 4321, Eric and Parrish from EPMD on Rampage, and Foxy Brown on I Shot Ya. Had bars for Kool Moe Dee, Cannabis, Ice-T, Tupac, Jay-Z and MC Hammer. Could you imagine Snoop battling any of them except maybe MC Hammer and Ice-T? LL would have destroyed him in a battle. The way he handled his beefs with Kool Moe Dee and Cannabis is more than praiseworthy. Those were some of the most deadly lyricists of their era. The Ripper Strikes Back, for example, was a great response record to Second Round Knockout. The older I get, the more I appreciate that song. Second Round Knockout is a top 10 diss record of all time. Don't think Snoop could ever come back from a heavy blow like that. L's pen game is far superior. Vocabulary, storytelling, songwriting, punchlines, battle rhymes, and he had tons of flows that he used throughout his career. Along with his production, LL's flow was constantly evolving until the early 2000s. His competitiveness made him adapt tons of rapping styles, as he never wanted to sound old, outdated or rusty, which worked in his favor during his beefs and feuds. I don't think Snoop could take on a prime LL. Even the best lyricists struggle to handle him. He's truly a GOAT of this culture. And Ghost is of course superior to ODB. Finals. Agree with Ghostface Killah over Snoop Dogg. He's superior on all levels. Which means Snoop is number 34 and Ghost number 33 in our ranking.
Right now I'm Papa Bear, B. I'm Big Papa.
Now let's take a look at the top 32. Agree with Q-Tip from A Tribe Called Quest over Proof from D12. Pac vs Biggie hurt my soul. Way too early. All because of my bad luck. I thought about reshuffling the list so that they wouldn't meet in the first round, but that would be unfair and biased. So I just left it as it is. Pac and Big are two of my favorite rappers of all time. They are both the greatest to me. Big was the more technically advanced rapper. He had a better vocabulary, better punchlines, wordplay, rhyme chains, schemes, multi-syllabic rhyming, flows, etc. He is the king of subliminal dissing. Battled half of the East Coast and the West Coast simultaneously. I did a documentary on the King of New York rivalries, which you should definitely check out. Big crushed multiple MCs at once. I will do another video on his feud with Pac and show you what these two were capable of. People always say that Big only had 2 albums and that he shouldn't be in the GOAT conversation, which is nonsense. Discrediting the man just because he got killed so early. He was the King of New York while he was alive. Every MC had to go through him to get that title, and nobody really managed to defeat him. We all know that he could easily tear your top 5 rappers to shreds in a battle. His second album was also a double LP, so he technically completed 3 solo albums while he was alive. Not just 2, and those are all up there with the greatest rap albums of all time. He also had the Junior Mafia project out, worked and appeared on Lil' Kim's Hardcore, also on Puff Daddy's No Way Out. Tons of feature verses on which he always outshined everyone else. Singles, remixes, demo tapes, unreleased songs, and also posthumous albums like Born Again and duets The Final Chapters. Everything this man put out was legendary and became a classic. Ready to Die and Life After Death have more bangers and hits than most rappers have in their entire catalogs. He only dropped quality material while he was alive, to the point where he has less filler songs on each album than most rappers have in their greatest hits albums. He always put quality over quantity. I've been listening to him for over 15 years now, and I can't get tired of it. Unlike the music of most rappers these days. His music is like a time capsule and aged like fine wine. He was one of the first rappers to have a diamond album, while being unable to promote it or do videos for it, aside from Hypnotize of course. And then we have Pac, another icon who loved to challenge and battle every MC. Just like Big, he beefed with like 30 rappers at once. Pac was basically the West Coast version of the King of New York. He accepted every challenge and also had feuds with rappers on the West Coast. Pac had the passion, energy, delivery and work ethic on his side. He was also more political, had more introspective and heartfelt lyrics, was also doing songs for his community, made records to empower black women, songs against domestic violence, real life stories from the hood, growing up without a father, police brutality, racial inequality, gang violence, and he was overall just a more socially conscious rapper. Pac made music that you can feel. He's one of the most relatable rappers ever. And I don't mean relatable in the sense of having witnessed everything he went through, but you can understand and feel every word that he raps. His stories are real, authentic and straight from the heart. Pac is like a homie that tells you everything he went through in life. He opens up about things that most MCs would never rap about, cause they are unable to show weakness. He also put out way more albums and music while he was alive. 5 studio albums, one of which is a double album, also a group album, and then after he passed, they released his work posthumously. The Don Illuminati 7 Day Theory, which is another classic, 3 more double albums, Are You Still Down, Until the End of Time and Better Days. The group album Still I Rise, and then Loyal to the Game and Pac's Life. He still has hundreds of songs that never got released, and we're not talking about trash throwaway songs. He has tons of bangers that never made it on an album. I was collecting them at one point, even did a top 100 list for that back in 2017. It's not easy for me to pick one over the other. Biggie had a hard time with them during their beef, cause Pac is a very smart MC. He hits you where it hurts the most. His energy, his direct and in-your-face style, his passion and ability to just make hit after hit every day while dissing all his enemies is second to none. He recorded the classic double album All Eyes on Me in just 2 weeks along with 10 other songs. And it went diamond, one of the best rap albums of all time. The Don Illuminati, another multi-platinum classic album, recorded in just 3 days, along with like 10 songs that didn't make the cut. He was a workhorse, that's what every rapper who was with him in the studio will tell you. Most of the time he was just freestyling and didn't really take his time with his lyrics. In his last months he was paranoid and tried to record as much music as possible, cause he knew that he only had a limited amount of time on planet Earth. He even rapped about his imminent death in multiple songs.
Let the world know I plan to die. If I don't leave with what I came for and be denied.
Pac, by most people, is viewed as the greatest rapper of all time because he had a futuristic pen about himself. His pen sometimes wrote the future. He wrote his death before his death happened. He shot the video for I Ain't Mad At You a week before he got killed. Like, why would you do a video about you getting killed? And then a week later, you get killed.
We only got 2 weeks to do this whole album. It's completed.
He knew it. He worked like a fucking racehorse.
We don't have time or the luxury to spend all of this time doing one song. We don't have it. I did my whole album like 3 songs a day.
He was a fucking workhorse, man. That's why he got albums coming out, you know, almost 20 years after his death. He still got fucking songs that ain't been heard.
He'll let him get on the song, him get on the song, him get on the song. As soon as the song go off, he won't even listen to it. Put that shit over there. Pull the next beat up.
Man, get that beat popping. Throw them niggas on the track. You catch everybody freestyling. Throw them niggas on the track. Boom. That's the name of the song is whatever this nigga said his last word was.
Pull another beat up. There's 3 songs this nigga done did in an hour. 3 songs he ain't listened to nan one of them.
Only time I ever like sat back and wrote the rhyme that I was gonna do and it like thought about it like is the same song I did with Digital Underground. Besides that, every other record that came out that Tupac did, I did high and drunk in the studio while they was making the beat.
So it's like, to me, why the fuck was he working so fast and so hard and trying to finish all these records up?
He knew.
He had to know.
He had to hurry up and get all that music out. That's what I heard people say.
That'd be the song.
And that's another thing. Pac has dozens of songs in which he seemed to predict his death, with lines that fans used to create conspiracy theories about him. He's one of those few artists that people think faked his death. As a kid, I was one of those people who were into all these theories, and weird coincidences that people constantly talked about. He became a mysterious figure like Elvis Presley. There are still thousands of people who don't believe that he's actually dead, and Pac's lyrics seem to support all those theories. His death was unable to stop him. He became bigger and put out more music in death than while he was alive, with lyrics that are still relevant and quoted all around the world. And this brings us to the next point, impact. Both of them are worldwide icons, but Pac's legacy and impact is greater in my opinion. Even outside the US, almost everyone has heard about Tupac, even though he has passed almost 26 years ago. He has outgrown music, and I don't mean like Kanye West, through publicity stunts and stupid comments that make the trends every now and then. Just with his talent alone and everything that he represents. And that's why I always tend to put him above Big. But again, I could make arguments on both sides and talk for an hour about this. Love their music and appreciate everything they have done for hip-hop. It kinda hurts to see Big getting eliminated so early. They're both the greatest to me. I wouldn't even care if you had picked them over Pac. But we have a few B-tier rappers that made it even higher. Some of these rappers should be nowhere near a top 30. Anyway, Redman vs Kendrick is debatable. I personally prefer Redman's music, his style, delivery, flow, humor, and overall he just sounds better in my opinion. Kendrick's music grew off me heavily. Section 80 is unlistenable to me, as it aged horribly. Damn lacks replay value, and the hits on there are overplayed and get a little annoying over time, especially Humble. Hated his newest album, enjoyed only 2 songs that I probably will never go back to, and it has 0 replay value, which you can see by the drastic drop in streams and some of the songs breaking records on how fast they fell from the charts. I really would have enjoyed it way more if the meaningful and introspective parts of the album were released as a book or an audiobook. It just didn't work as an album, cause it didn't sound great at all.
Fuck you, nigga. Nah, fuck you, bitch. Nah, fuck you, nigga.
At the end of the day, it's music. It has to sound enjoyable in order for me to like it. You don't want to replay it, can't listen to it in the car, in clubs, at parties, with friends. You can only listen to it alone at home. When you're lying in the corner of your room in fetal position, trying to feel for a miserable 34-year-old man, whispering in your ears, crying about things that happened decades ago, in between childish and happy songs like
Bitch, you ugly as fuck. You out of pocket. Push these niggas off me like push these bitches off me like push these niggas off me like
They judge you, they judge Christ. Godspeed for women's rights. They judge you, they judge Christ. Godspeed for women's rights. They judge you, they judge Christ. Godspeed for women's rights. They judge you, they judge Christ. Godspeed for women's rights. They judge.
And no, the album wasn't just super deep and lyrical therapy sessions for Kendrick. I mean, he had Kodak Black and Baby Keem on the album, and multiple R&B type songs. It was supposed to satisfy everybody, but he failed on multiple levels. I actually gave up on the album after my 11th listen. The more I listen to it, the less I like it. Just like with his album To Pimp a Butterfly, but this one I enjoyed for years, and saw as one of the greatest albums of all time. But now, 7 years later, I don't even want to go back to it. Most of his music just lacks replay value. The only project of him for which it's not the case is Good Kid, Mad City, which has songs that I enjoy to this day. It aged the best in my opinion, but I would never put it above What the Album or Muddy Waters. I also love his other projects like There's a Dark Side, Darkstar Name 2000, Malpractice, and also his work with Method Man, Blackout 1 and Blackout 2. I just prefer his overall style and sound. Lyrically I think Kendrick is superior, but a little overrated. Dr. Dre vs J. Cole. Dre has a way better catalog, way bigger hits and hip-hop anthems that Cole can never come close to. His music was always second class to me, and I wouldn't call any of his songs phenomenal or groundbreaking. None of them would make my top 100 rap songs list. Dre on the other hand has dozens of songs that deserve to be on there. He's a hit machine. No Cole album comes close to NWA's first 2 projects or The Chronic or 2001. I even prefer Compton over a large portion of his discography. He also had way more impact, influence, and is way more important to the culture than Cole. But of course we have to take into account that he used writers, and didn't write all of his lyrics himself. So in that field Cole is definitely superior. Although I'd like to add that we shouldn't be hypocritical here. If we gon' criticize Dre for using writers, then we should do the same for Kanye, Drake and Lil Wayne, which most people don't do. The ghostwriting argument only works against Dr. Dre and Eazy-E, never against Kanye or Wayne, and rarely against Drake. If we're going to disqualify those who use writers, then let's stay consistent and do so for everyone who does it. Dre made tons of great traditional non-pop hip-hop anthems, and he also loved to battle on records. So I do respect him more than somebody like a Kanye, for example, who is the face of pop rap. Can't lyrically defend himself and uses 30 writers and co-producers on each album. Don't like Kanye's music that much, so I can't make excuses for him. Dre on the other hand has produced dozens of songs since the NWA days that I love. The ghostwriting argument shouldn't bother you with Dre and Eazy-E as much as it should with Kanye, Drake and Lil Wayne. Cause I don't know anybody that puts Dre or Eazy-E at number 1. At least I don't do it. But there are thousands of people who think that Kanye is the best rapper ever. None of them would make my top 40. Dre would easily defeat Cole in the versus battle, and he also made the better battle records in my opinion. With the help of ghostwriters, Prime Dre would definitely crush Cole in the battle, at least on records. He would most likely produce the better sounding diss record. But without writers, Cole would easily turn him to minced meat. Rakim over Big L is understandable, in terms of impact, longevity, influence, importance, catalog and storytelling. L on the other hand had better punchlines and wordplay. It's unfortunate that he got eliminated so early, but Rakim is the god MC, so I can't really be mad at that. Big Daddy Kane vs KRS One. Kane won their versus battle in October 2021, and overall he's superior in terms of lyricism, flow, diversity, rhyme schemes and technical skills. Both have amazing catalogs. KRS has way more albums than Kane, who on the other hand has a more consistent discography. They have impacted the game almost to the same degree. Sad that KRS got eliminated so early. Both are in my top 10. MF Doom definitely better than Ice-T, but the next one is really embarrassing. Kanye West won against DMX, basically through cheating. The first 70 hours X was leading by a wide margin, somewhere between 300 and 500 votes. But he caught up in the last 2 hours and surpassed him by over 100 votes. And the reason for that are either fake votes by bots, or the link got shared on a Kanye stan page, which is more or less the same as using bots. It reminded me of Bracket 30, when Playboi Carti stans sabotaged the tournament and made him defeat every opponent until I interfered. More about that in part 4. I talked about how Kanye and Playboi Carti stans are the most toxic, delusional and persistent people in the culture. They would do anything for their idols and support them even if it doesn't make any sense. They are like zombies almost. You can't have a discussion with them or convince them with flawless arguments or facts, cause they are too childish and immature. They can't even explain you why their favorite artist is the best. And this is not a jab at regular Kanye or Playboi Carti fans. There's nothing wrong with liking their music. I'm only talking about the stans. They not only live in their own little alternative world where Kanye is a god and above criticism, but they get on your nerves and troll you until you accept their worldview as reality. They just spread their nonsense on all platforms while being overly sensitive and aggressive when their favorite artist gets criticized. And they don't even have arguments. Sad thing is, they suck the fun out of everything, while people want to have intelligent and mature conversations and discussions about the topic. Kanye has over 30 ghostwriters. I named more than a dozen of them in the previous part of the tournament. He gets outshined on every song, even though his lyrics get written for him. Gets lyrically slapped around by dozens of rappers while being too scared to respond. And his catalog is insanely overrated. He's a dope producer, don't get me wrong. He had a far bigger impact. But X is superior on an MC level. He could freestyle for hours, wasn't scared to battle anyone, actually battled Jay-Z for like an hour straight, could lyrically defend himself, doesn't get outshined on every song like Kanye, like his energy and delivery was second to none. He had tons of groundbreaking hits in his prime that every hip-hop traditionalist and purist loves. Kanye was never respected as an MC by top-tier rappers, and his music was more pop than anything. The P. Diddy or Jermaine Dupri of his generation. If you think about it, they're actually very similar to Kanye. Both dope producers, tons of ghostwriters, can't lyrically defend themselves, labeled as pop and soft, get outshined on every song, have tons of hits, their own record labels, signed ghostwriters and artists that are lyrically superior, get slapped around and ridiculed by everyone, and the only two things they lack are publicity stunts and over 1 million dick riders. I mean, nobody puts Jermaine Dupri or Puff Daddy in their top 100. But Kanye gets called the GOAT by millions of people. He himself thinks that he's a top tier lyricist even though he gets killed by all his feature guests.
I kill y'all niggas on that lyrical shit.
And even though he would lose every rap battle.
I kill y'all niggas on that lyrical shit.
Kanye fans will tell you that it ain't about lyrics. Having 30 ghostwriters and 30 co-producers on each album can only mean that you're the greatest.
I kill y'all niggas on that lyrical shit.
Who cares if he can't win any battles? Or back and forths? If he gets slapped around by every rapper? And that every freestyle he ever spits, or every verse people praise him for, like Gorgeous for example, was ghostwritten by somebody else. He's still the GOAT.
I kill y'all niggas on that lyrical shit.
He's insecure about getting outshined, even though he's the only one on the song who's getting help with his lyrics.
It was like that moment, you know, when I thought about taking Nicki's verse off of Monster, because I knew people would say that was the best verse on the best hip-hop album of all time, or arguably top 10 albums of all time, right? Mm-hmm. And I would do all that work, 8 months of work on Dark Fantasy, and people to this day would say to me, oh, my favorite thing was Nicki Minaj's verse.
I kill y'all niggas on that lyrical shit.
I think you got the point. Lyrics do matter, even for Kanye. Or else he wouldn't say,
I kill y'all niggas on that lyrical shit.
But he understood that his cult-like standbase would worship, defend and dick-ride him and put him on #1 no matter what he does. He can have a dozen writers and co-producers on every album, bite everyone's lyrics and styles, say he doesn't care or listen to hip-hop, that slavery was a choice, that Harriet Tubman never actually freed slaves, publicly support Donald Trump for clout without actually sharing his political views or agreeing with what he does, dress as a tree and stalk a woman with children, beat up strangers for no reason, sell $1 t-shirts for over $100, constantly say and do the dumbest things in history, and even rape an entire village. But his stance will still worship him and be toxic no matter what. In this day and age, it's literally impossible to have a serious discussion or tournament like this where it's about who's the best, without stans, trolls or bots interfering and manipulating the results in favor of the most cult-followed, controversial and memeable artist. At the end of the day, it's your tournament. You pick the best, not me. I'm more disappointed and sad for the people who really cared about this thing. I mean, I can see your frustrations and anger in the comments. I'm just here to share my thoughts with you guys. A lot of people that got eliminated so far are actually superior to Kanye in terms of rapping skills.
You know, I rhyme about the movement for Black lives in most of my rhymes. Kanye out here rhyming about bleach assholes and stuff like that. Obviously, he's more popular.
X should have definitely won this in my opinion. He's far superior in every aspect of rapping. Just like Andre from Outkast, who also got kicked out of the tournament. Andre would have made the finals so much more fun and interesting. He's one of the greats, but only made it to the top 128. I mean, he has out-rapped Kanye 15 years after dropping his last album. But instead we have people on here who are not even that great at rapping. Anyway, Prodigy from Up Deep has more hits and a larger catalog than Big Pun. But rapping-wise he was inferior in my opinion. Pun's flow was just one of a kind. His lyrics and rhyme schemes were just more sophisticated in my opinion. He was more advanced in terms of technical skills. Had more inner sentence compound syllable rhymes. And long rhyme chains that just go on and on. Better punchlines and wordplay, and in a battle I think he would have the advantage. Especially in the late 90s. But I agree with your next ranking. Always hated Lil Wayne's music, style, voice, delivery, and could never put him above Eazy-E, who's often credited as the godfather of gangster rap. In part 2 of the tournament I went on a 7-minute rant on why I think Wayne is far from a top tier MC. Make sure to check it out, cause I gave a long list of arguments that I won't repeat in this video. But anyway, if you're gonna use that ghostwriting argument, just know that Lil Wayne used writers too, Gilly the Kid for example. I even showed receipts in that video, and also included like 30 of his most famous punchlines that are among the worst in history. Actually wanted to include 100 of them, but the video was already an hour long. But I might post it in the future, the list is ready to go. His lyricism is overrated, delivery is terrible, weak vocabulary, cancerous voice, has too many cringe, stupid and corny punchlines, had a horrible impact on the culture, makes cancerous music, has no classic hip-hop albums even though he calls himself the best rapper alive, overuses autotune since the late 2000s, has a very repetitive subject matter, and I don't even want to talk about his recent music.
Yeah, peeling the Gotti, pew-pewing, I got him, pew-pewing, I got him, Latunchi and shot her. She loves me, not patience, I'm running out, walking all over me, made me her stomping grounds. Triple X, I just pop a Triple X, a school shooter, I just need attention, yeah, tell the principal, I ain't got no principal.
I'm much more of a fan of Eazy-E's catalog, from the NWA days all the way to straight off the streets of motherfucking Compton. Tons of bangers that you would put in your top 100 rap songs of all time list. Far superior to Wayne's music in my opinion. I mean, let's be honest, which of Wayne's songs is up there with the greatest of all time? His music is definitely not for everybody. And if you take a look at their diss tracks to see what they're capable of during a battle, you can't tell me that Wayne has the better battle records. Compare Eazy-E's Real Motherfucking G's to Lil Wayne's Pusha T diss track. Or What Would You Do to Problem Solver. It's on to Coco. Every Eazy-E diss track is a classic. even the one against Ice Cube during the NWA days. Wayne, on the other hand, has 0 classic battle records. How can you be the GOAT, drop diss tracks, and all of them are whack? How would Wayne respond to a song like Real Motherfucking G's? He's way too soft, annoying and nerdy to intimidate anyone. You lose automatically if you sound this whack. He even asked Drake for help when his diss track received overwhelmingly negative reviews and when Pusha T was slapping him around. And they still lost, 2 against 1. In a battle, Easy would most likely try to embarrass him on a personal level. For example, with some of Wayne's cute little pictures with Birdman. Just like he did with Dr. Dre in his music videos. All the pictures with lipstick and makeup, which destroyed his reputation and image to the point where Dre said that he doesn't want to make gangsta music anymore. Which is ironic because he continued when Eazy-E passed. In a battle, it's all about being the hardest, the most macho, and being an alpha male. Especially in the 90s. That's what battling was mostly about. The one who's soft loses. Wayne has way too much attack surface. He is a victim. And even if he was the greatest lyricist in the world, which is definitely not the case with all those weak bars and weak vocabulary, his cancerous voice, delivery and energy ruins everything and makes him sound too soft and whack to actually make an impactful song. A one that's superior to Real Motherfucking G's and still has an extreme amount of replay value. I mean, look at the numbers. 316 million views for a diss track of a man that's been dead for over 27 years. It's not even posted on an official channel. I can't tell you how many times I've listened to that song. It never gets old. And I know that he used writers, just like Wayne. They're in the same boat. And that alone is enough of an argument for me to exclude both from the finals. I wouldn't put either of them in my top 32. But still, I hate 99% of what Wayne has contributed to the culture, and would pick Easy just cause his catalog is way more enjoyable to me. And he wasn't soft either, like Kanye and Puffy for example, who let others ghostwrite their lyrics while being too scared to lyrically defend themselves. Eric loved battle rap. He had an entire EP aimed at Dr. Dre and another one aimed at Ice Cube, but they squashed the beef and it never got released. But Cube got a chance to hear it and apparently cried when they played it for him. 50 Cent is not better than Scarface. I think early on in the late 90s before he got shot, he would have a chance to go toe to toe with him, as he was more lyrical early on in his career. But after the massacre, it just went downhill for him. They actually had a beef in the early 2000s. Scarface and Zero dissed him on the song "Use a bitch nigga when you rat on your friend. Use a bitch nigga when you steal cash from your king. Use a bitch nigga." Overall, I think Scarface is the better poet and lyricist. His storytelling is superior, just like his catalog. Mr. Scarface is Back, The World Is Yours, The Diary, The Untouchable, My Homies, The Fix. All great albums in my opinion. And of course all the projects he made with the Ghetto Boys. 50 has Power of the Dollar, Get Rich or Die Tryin', and The Massacre. Curtis was decent I would say, but I was kinda disappointed when it dropped. And his other 2 albums are forgettable. But of course he also has tons of hits with G-Unit as well. In the verses I would say 50 would be the victor. But Scarface is more consistent, has superior rapping skills, and would probably win in a battle. Although Power of the Dollar 50 Cent could become a problem. He was just way more raw, lyrical and aggressive back then. The next matchup is very close. Master Killer is a superior lyricist to MC Ren, even though most people think that he's the second worst member of the Wu-Tang Clan. They were all lyrical assassins. He had much more sophisticated rhyme schemes, a better vocabulary, punchlines, metaphors, but MC Ren I would say had the better flow, delivery and cadence. Catalog-wise, if we ignore their group projects, then Ren is definitely superior. Kiss My Black Ass was a dope EP, and I also enjoyed all the solo albums in the 90s. Shock of the Hour, The Villain in Black and Ruthless for Life. Master Killer's first solo album, No Set Date, was great too, very underrated, but the rest of his catalog is mediocre, mainly because of the production. And impact-wise I would also give it to Ren. Don't think anyone would disagree with me. I personally would have given this round to MC Ren. The gap in lyricism ain't that big for me to pick Master Killer, cause he's inferior in every other criteria. Eminem vs Nas. This is another one of those unlucky cases where we have to eliminate a top 5 MC in the first round. First Biggie and now Nas. Very sad to see. Both incredible MCs that have mastered their craft. Nas is more of a mafioso poet and storyteller. M, on the other hand, is more of a psychopathic battle MC who puts strong emphasis on the technical aspects of rapping. He's superior in terms of rhyme schemes, double entendres, punchlines, wordplay, metaphors, has used a large variety of flows that Nas most likely can't mimic or do himself. He's also superior in terms of freestyling and expressing emotions, I would say. His stories are oftentimes exaggerated to get a point across and to make the listener understand what he's going through psychologically. Sometimes the themes go more in the direction of horrorcore than actual authentic and heartfelt street poetry. Although early on he also rapped about growing up poor in a trailer park and raising a child in a cruel and unfair world. But over the years he kinda ran out of stories to tell. Nas, on the other hand, touches on a larger variety of topics, has more meaning in his raps, cares less about the syllables and the technicalities than about the actual sound, structure and message of the song. I also prefer his cadence. M can sound offbeat at times, especially after Relapse. Nas is way more smooth and writes beats perfectly without experimenting with too many flow switches and unorthodox rapping styles. His delivery and vocal performance is way more consistent. And what I mean by that is he doesn't go through as many phases as M did and doesn't sound like he's going through an identity crisis or feeling like he has to constantly change his style in order to keep his fans interested. Nas is just being himself without switching up his character for anybody. Cause M had his little shock value horrorcore phase, sometimes he's the funny guy and raps all over the place as the chaotic, drugged up and out of control white boy, socially awkward and with a I don't give a fuck mentality. Sometimes he sounds pissed off, psychopathic, on other songs corny and childish, and then back to mature, considerate and self-aware. Makes use of accents, does parodies for celebrities. Laid back, sleepy, you know, he has a large variety of styles. You could of course say that he's vocally just more diverse than Nas, but a lot of people don't like that about him and wanna see consistency. Others only listen to him for one or two styles, and expect him to sound like that on every record. And this made him feel anxious and insecure about the musical direction he should take. A lot of people are unsatisfied with his music, cause many of his styles haven't aged well for them. For some styles he's too old to bring them back, and for others the climate in hip-hop just changed to the point where people don't want to hear it anymore. Especially with all those thousands of wannabe rappers trying to imitate him on YouTube. These copycats are so corny and lame that people are trying to get back and attack Eminem for it. Quick to label it as trash, cringe or as suburban white boy rap, even though the chopper style was invented by black people. But of course it's also because of the change in expectations and of the current sound of the mainstream. M is the most hated and at the same time the most popular rapper in history. The love and hate he gets is almost like 50-50. And I don't even know how he got to this point. You don't see that with Nas's music. Everybody seems to respect him for what he does. It's very hard for me to say who's the better MC, just by their rapping skills alone. They're way too different in terms of style. Both amazing lyricists in their respective fields. Although Eminem often gets criticized for lines that are too corny, immature or edgy. Nas is definitely the more mature MC, with less bars that people consider awful. Both had very creative and unique song concepts, and also amazing battle records, although none of M's disses come close to either. Both know how to lyrically defend themselves. I think a battle between those two would have different outcomes depending on the era. Early 90s to 2001, definitely Nas. 2002 was Eminem's peak in my opinion. That's when it could have went both ways. Imagine a full, all-out diss record on the Eminem show, when M was the biggest thing on the planet. 32 million copies sold, and on top of that, the 8 Mile movie. People would overhype the shit out of it and say that he destroyed Nas's career, especially with the drop in Nas's sales and him losing relevance over the years. Could Nas drop another Ether, or would his diss tracks be more on the level of Don't Bother Yourself, Stillmatic Freestyle, or Destroy and Rebuild? Cause those last 3 are inferior to the source and nail in the coffin. If it was on Ether level, then I don't know if M could make a comeback. So it depends, and would be very close in my opinion. Maybe even a draw. 2004, again Nas. That's when M started to fall off. All the way up to the late 2000s. And then there's a shifting point. Nas's career was going nowhere, and I really hated his album Untitled when it came out. M was still super lyrical and out-rapping everybody. He also made The Warning, which was a very hard diss record, but of course it was only against Mariah Carey. But Nas's rapping skills were worsening at this point. And I think if he battled today, M would be the victor. Or at least a higher chance of winning, as in the early 2000s. Killshot was definitely an amazing diss record. Don't know how Nas would handle a beef in 2022. But prime against prime, I would say Nas was the superior MC, mainly in terms of catalog. Illmatic is the greatest hip-hop album of all time. It was written, I Am, Stillmatic, Godson, Lost Tapes, Nasir, King's Disease 2 and Magic are all amazing albums to me. And even the ones I left out had dope songs on them. M's best albums are Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP and Eminem Show. Encore was definitely a hit or miss album. The heights are on the level of a prime Eminem, but the low points on the album are the lowest as you can get. Didn't like Relapse, Recovery and Marshall Mathers LP2 when they dropped. Revival was trash aside from like a handful of songs, which ironically made me quit being an Eminem hater back in 2017. Heartfelt songs like Castle and a Rose really changed my mind on him and gave me that nostalgic old Eminem feel. I consumed that album more like an EP, cause I wasn't trying to dismiss it like everyone else. Ignore all the trash on the album and mainly focus on like 5 songs. Since Encore, I was waiting on songs with content, personal stories and introspective lyrics that are well executed and sound great. That's what I've been waiting for since my childhood, cause in my teenage years I was an Eminem hater. Anyway, Kamikaze and Music to be Murdered By were also great in my opinion. But they're nothing compared to the Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP and the Eminem Show. Infinite was alright too, but I don't think anyone goes back to it. So overall I like Nas's albums more, and he has also the bigger hip-hop anthems and hits. Not talking about sales or streams, but appreciation in the culture. He was also more consistent for a longer amount of time. Impact-wise you could make an argument for both. Nas inspired probably every rapper from New York in the 90s. Most lyricists will tell you that he was a huge influence for them. Eminem inspired whole different groups of people. The battle rap scene, rappers who blew up in the early to late 2010s, YouTube and chopper style rappers, maybe even backpack rappers, and those who are trying way too hard to be funny. Just by popularity and sales alone, you could argue that M reached more people. But Nas's impact was more important to the hip-hop culture, I would say. Anyway, I always had the same level of respect for both of them, cause they're both top 10 MCs, but I never had M over Nas. Black Thought, catalog and skill-wise superior to Royce the 5'9", Method Man over Lauryn Hill, and Jay-Z is also a better MC compared to Ice Cube. But it's sad that we lost another top 10 or top 15 rapper in the first round. In total we lost 6 top 15 rappers in the first round. And those were just the ones that made it to the top 32. I would have also loved to see Guru from Gangsta, Chuck D, Andre from Outkast, Ghostface Killer, LL Cool J, Cool G Rap, Slick Rick, and a few more. But instead we got Proof, Ice-T, Kanye West, Lil Wayne, MC Ren and Master Killer on here. Which makes it almost seem like Master Killer is the best rapper of the Wu-Tang Clan and even better than Nas and Big. Anyway, round 2. Agree with Pac over Q-Tip, Kendrick over Dr. Dre. Rakim vs Big Daddy Kane is an interesting matchup, knowing that they both had a subliminal beef in the late 80s and early 90s. Kane was always the flower and Rakim the superior lyricist. Both have incredible catalogs and are in my personal top 10, but I agree that Rakim is the superior MC. Kanye finally got kicked out of the tournament against MF Doom, who's the far superior MC on all levels. Kinda sad that Andre got kicked out in bracket 30, cause Andre vs Doom would have been a closer and far more interesting matchup. There's a high chance that Andre would have won. But Kanye's cult had to sabotage the tournament, of course. I'm kinda blaming myself for not letting Playboi Carti win that bracket. Who knows what would have happened if Carti made it on here in Kanye's place. But anyway, glad that they're finally out. Prodigy, both catalog and skill-wise superior to Eazy-E. 50 not as lyrical as Master Killer, but he wins in every other category. Eminem vs Black Thought is an interesting matchup. Every time they rap together, M got outshined. Lyrically it's very close. Thought is a lot more serious and mature. More meaningful rhymes, a better cadence, better vocabulary, is less technical but still has great punchlines, wordplay and metaphors. Amazing storytelling, great flows, delivery, but I personally have a problem with the speed selection. Don't like the production on most of his albums aside from Philadelphia Half Time and Things Fall Apart. Those two are my favorite Roots albums. Don't know if I could do a top 50 best Black Thought songs list without including ones that I find mediocre. Cause I mainly enjoy their earliest records, After the 90s, they experimented with different genres like rock, neo-soul, R&B, funk, reggae, indie rock, but I personally enjoy more traditional sounding hip-hop, hardcore, boom bap, or even gangster rap, so their more recent albums are less interesting to me. I'm also not the biggest fan of live musical instruments in hip-hop music. Like I said, I prefer boom bap-ish music with loop samples and drums, produced with a drum machine or a computer. But that's just me. Everybody has their own taste in music. I like way more songs from Eminem than from The Roots. It would be way easier to do a top 100 for M. He was also more impactful. Don't think The Roots had much of an impact on the game. In a battle, I think M would have the advantage as he was a battle MC before he blew up. And he also made a long list of battle records that fans still go back to decades later. Black Thought has never really been battle tested, so I don't know how he would perform in a beef. He did have a little feud with Biggie at one point, flexing champagne in the music video for What They Do, but I don't think he ever dissed somebody on records. That being said, he does have some crazy punchlines. But anyway, overall I would probably pick Eminem. And in the final matchup of round 2, we have Jay-Z over Method Man. Agree with this one too. In round 3 we had Tupac over Kendrick Lamar, which I definitely agree with. Pac is the more iconic and legendary MC, with a better voice, catalog, work ethic, style, diversity, delivery, had more quotables, way superior battle records, and also wins in terms of impact, importance and influence. Most Tupac songs you ever heard were recorded in a span of 5 years. The exact same duration Kendrick made us wait for his new double album Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. A huge disappointment for me, and inferior to Tupac's double album All Eyes on Me, which he recorded in just 2 weeks. Now what would Kendrick's album sound like if it was recorded in 2 weeks? I mean, he had 5 years. Maybe if we gave him more time, like 5 more years, then the album could have been dope. I mean, Tupac released better double albums while he was dead. Are You Still Down, Until the End of Time, Better Days, those are all classics. Along with his other classic albums, Me Against the World, All Eyes on Me, The Don Illuminati, 7 Day Theory, Thug Life, and Still I Rise is in my opinion a classic too. If it came out this year, people would consider it as one of the greatest albums of the decade. Pac has accomplished way more in a much shorter amount of time. He was just 25 when he passed away. If the same thing happened to Kendrick at that age, we would only have the mediocre debut album Section 80, the classic Good Kid Mad City, and all his skippable mixtapes. That wouldn't be enough for anybody to label him a top tier MC. Pac was improving with every album and we most likely didn't even see his prime. But he still recorded hundreds of iconic songs that people have on repeat to this day. Imagine what he could have accomplished if his career lasted as long as Kendrick's. I mean, Kenny is 34 now. He had 9 more years and still has a far smaller and weaker catalog. Pac has battled some of the best MCs in the game like Biggie, Nas, Jay-Z, Mobb Deep, Gino XL, De La Soul, A Tribe Called Quest, Fugees and dozens of other rappers. All at the same time. And who the hell is Kendrick next to some of the names I just gave you? I mean, let's be honest, he can't mess with Big, J and Nas. Pac had the game in a chokehold and he would have crushed Kendrick in a battle. He battled the whole coast, while Kendrick is out here getting out-rapped by every single one of his feature guests on his new album. Like for example whack-ass Kodak Black, Baby Keem and Ghostface Killah. Pac made classic songs about a wide variety of topics, and they all have a far higher replay value than Kendrick's hits. He was also Kendrick's main influence. Even appeared on To Pimp a Butterfly in a fake interview. Pac is also more relatable, expresses emotions in a much better way, has a way more enjoyable rapping style, and was overall the more interesting person with a wide variety of characteristics that he somehow managed to incorporate into his music without any difficulty, which means all the things that made Tupac great became part of his music. And nothing seemed fake or unauthentic about it. He was like 100 people in one, and ultimately has mastered more styles than Kendrick. Sometimes he was a player, the next day a gangster, a thug, an activist, a poet, a battler, a revolutionary, a politician, an actor, a leader, a mentally and physically abused son, a father writing for a child that he will never have, a husband, a boyfriend, a friend. He was all that at once, and even more. Simple-minded hip-hop casuals always reduce him to one of these characteristics or images. Like they say Pac was only a gangster, nothing more, nothing less. Ignorance, nothing else. You could also feel his music more. Kendrick's weak delivery hinders me from sympathizing with him, when he opens up in songs that are supposed to be deep, introspective and heartfelt. I just can't connect with him the way I do with Tupac's music.
Old Kendrick and new...
little boy!
But he just does. Be humble. And I love his stuff, but it's like, be humble. When I saw him in concert, I could barely hear his voice. Be humble. He's a little guy.
Pac did everything on a higher level. He has classics like Dear Mama, Papa's Song, Brenda's Got a Baby, which Kendrick more or less drew inspiration from, and replicated on songs like Mother I Sober, Father Time, and Keisha's Song. A lot of his concepts are rehashed and come from rappers before him, like Pac for example, or Mouseberg on King Kunta, Eminem and RZA on the song We Cry Together. A lot of the things he gets praised for have already been done. What Kendrick also struggles with is to create meaningful, deep and heartfelt songs that don't just look good on paper, but also sound good, are delivered well, so that you can memorize the lyrics and understand the content of the song without having to listen to it a million times to understand and like it. Cause that's what Kendrick fans always tell you. Force yourself to re-listen to the same song 100 times so that it eventually grows on you and you're not considered close-minded anymore. And these songs don't even have that much replay value, so you're forcing yourself to like a song that you won't even go back to, even though you could just check out other music that is more to your taste. But that's just me, I'm not trying to hold you back from listening to mediocre music. And the lack of replay value of his latest album that is considered a masterpiece is also backed up by statistics. Just look at the historic and record-breaking drop in streams. He's the most hyped up rapper out right now, tens of millions of fans. But it seems like only a fraction of them wants to re-listen to his music. People got tired of it after just a week, while Pac's music is more relevant than ever. You can see his songs re-entering the charts decades after his death. Pac has classic replayable music for every occasion. His songs aged like fine wine, but a huge portion of Kendrick's catalog already grew off me in just a handful of years. The replay value of Pac's music is way superior. They are original and the blueprint for rappers of this generation who get labeled as poets. Like Kendrick Lamar, for example.
Top 5, give me J, give me M, give me Pac, give me Big, and give me Snoop. These are the cats that inspire me like the most. And if you break down how I approach lyrics, you can hear the influence each and every one of these dudes.
Sure, that's true. Agree with Rakim over Doom, as he's superior in terms of impact, influence, importance, catalog, delivery, flow, cadence, storytelling, wordplay, punchlines, content, and overall he had the bigger hip-hop anthems. Prodigy, catalog and skill-wise superior to 50 Cent. I mean, he has all the Mobb Deep albums, most notably the infamous Hell on Earth, Murder Music, and Infamy. And on top of that, all his solo albums and collaborations, HNRC and Albert Einstein for example, those are actually among my favorites. He stayed consistent for a way longer amount of time and is more advanced in terms of vocabulary, storytelling, delivery, subject matter and overall writing. Eminem vs Jay-Z is very close for me, depending on what you value more. I think catalog and impact-wise, Jay is a level above him. I mean, if we compare their discographies, the only Eminem albums that are considered classics are the Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP and The Eminem Show. So 3 albums. Some also count Relapse, which I personally disagree with. Cause when it dropped, I was actually one of those people who instantly hated it. Even back then people were under the impression that Marshall fell off. And I was one of them. Recovery and Marshall Mathers LP2 made it even worse, although some of the songs have grown on me over time. Jay dropped 7 enjoyable albums back to back between 1996 and 2003. Reasonable Doubt, Volume 1-3, The Dynasty, Blueprint 1, Blueprint 2 and The Black Album. To be fair though, Volume 3, Dynasty and Blueprint 2 haven't aged that well, and most people wouldn't consider it his best work. But the other ones are classics to me. Reasonable Doubt, Volume 1 and 2, Blueprint and The Black Album. Which means 5 classics in total, compared to Eminem's 3. But M wasn't the only rapper who had a weak comeback after a hiatus. Jay also dropped comparably weak projects like Kingdom Come, American Gangster. The third installment of the Blueprint series was alright I guess, but nothing groundbreaking or special. It also sounded too poppy for me. Not a big fan of Watch the Throne either, it's overrated in my opinion. Magna Carta Holy Grail was terrible, but I enjoyed 444 at least. Although I have to admit that it lacks replay value. Just like Eminem's recent music. People say M fell off, but Jay did even worse in my opinion. Especially if you consider their lyrical ability and the aura they had in the late 90s and early 2000s. During those days, Jay sounded dangerous, like an imposing threat in the rap game. Like he could tear emcees apart in a battle and nobody really questioned that he could lyrically defend himself. Jay nowadays sounds like a puppy in comparison. Maybe it's because he hung out with Kanye too much. But Jay early on loved the competition and battling. Had subliminal shots for everyone who stepped in his direction. For everyone who was at the top. When he said, "Don't be the next contestant on that Summer Jam screen," people took it serious and knew not to mess with him. Afraid of getting exposed or lyrically destroyed on multi-platinum records or live on stage. He was always killing it in every freestyle. But nowadays if you ask him to spit a Hot 16, this is what he does.
1 clap, 2 clap, 3 clap, 4 clap, this so fly. 5 clap, 6 claps, 7 claps, this so fly.
That was around the time he made that awful Death of Autotune song. And it seemed like he turned into a New York version of Kanye. With his surface level bars and songs that lacked depth. His delivery worsened, his slick wordplay was gone, his beats and overall music just sounded less and less like hip hop and more like pop. And overall he just became way too soft for my personal taste. Eminem at least still sounds hungry, and you get the impression that he's still trying to prove himself. We all know that he could lyrically chop your favorite rappers into pieces in a battle. I mean, before they blew up commercially, they both were part of the battle rap scene. Jay-Z used to battle people on the streets, like his mentor G.O.A.T for example, and he continued doing it all the way up to the late 90s, when he for example battled DMX behind the scenes. But all that is gone now. He's not the MC he used to be. But of course, as a billionaire, you don't have to care. I mean, he still drops dope verses every 2 years or so, but I don't think people are actually scared of battling Jay-Z in 2022. M on the other hand is still ready to battle the whole rap scene to prove himself. That's the aura he has and the impression I get when listening to his music. I mean, we saw it on Kamikaze when it dissed dozens of rappers. And even in their primes you could tell that M is the more technically advanced MC and wordsmith. He clearly out-rapped him on Renegade for example, even though Eminem had recorded his verses 2 years earlier and sent them to Jay, who had all the time in the world to record verses that are superior, but he didn't manage to out-rap him, even though on the same album, on the song The Takeover, he was belittling Nas for getting outshined on his own song.
Fell from top 10 to not mention at all. To your bodyguards, Uchi Wali's verse better than yours.
So he always had that competitive mindset to never get outshined, and it was one of his main priorities to make sure that the same thing doesn't happen to himself. Or else he wouldn't have made fun of Nas on the same album. And Nas noticed that contradiction and used it against him.
Eminem murdered you on your own shit.
He got outrhymed even though he had a chance to listen to M's verse first. It wasn't like they pressured each other in the studio to finish their verses as fast as possible and that Jay just had a bad day. It was the opposite. Nobody pressured him and he wrote it alone without any concerns. He can't rap like M, at least not anymore. Jay had the triplet flow first. All that fast rapping and tongue twisting with Jazzo before Reasonable Doubt, but over the years his flow just became lazier and lazier. And he's also inferior when it comes to vocabulary, punchlines, wordplay, double entendres, storytelling, rhyme schemes, expressing emotions, energy, and I think that's it. Delivery is of course debatable. M's delivery is like hit or miss, just like I explained earlier. Sometimes he can come off as corny and annoying, on other songs he sounds like he's about to kill someone, and then he has songs where he sounds like he's about to burst into tears. Jay-Z's delivery on the other hand is more consistent, although some might consider it one-dimensional. And I personally don't like the way he raps on his more recent projects. Jay has the better cadence, a better subject matter, beat selection, impact, importance of the culture, influence, more high-quality albums, and even better hip-hop anthems than Eminem. Jay would definitely win in a versus battle. Although I have to note that Eminem's catalog oftentimes gets shitted on for no reason. Tell me for how many rappers you could do a top 100 list without adding anything mediocre or something that you don't like. M has so many amazing songs on every album. From The Outsiders, D12 and Bad Meets Evil days, all the way until now. Of course for Jay, I could do a top 100 too. Rhyming together on a song or live on stage, M would outshine him in 8 out of 10 cases. A rap battle would be very close though, cause Jay can be very personal and direct. He definitely knows how to strike a nerve. The Takeover is better than any Eminem diss record I ever heard. But I somehow think that M would still be the victor in the battle. Against Nas he mainly addressed him getting out-rapped, his weak album sales, his fall from grace, had overall the I'm way bigger than you approach, also the thing with Nas's baby mama Carmen, but all that wouldn't work against Eminem. The most damaging thing he could have done would be to pull up Eminem's racist tapes from the beginning of his career. Benzino did that in 2003, but nobody took him serious. He didn't have the star power of a Jay-Z. That's why the racist tapes didn't have that big of an impact on his career. Now imagine Jay playing those tapes as a skit on his album right after the Eminem diss or during the Summer Jam, just like he exposed Prodigy. That would have been the closest thing to a career ender that Jay could pull off. Would have loved to see what else he could say on a personal level. Cause in terms of non-personal punchlines, M is probably superior. He was the highest selling rapper at that point, and Jay was always making fun of Nas's weak album sales. He became scared when 50 Cent was taking over the game with Get Rich or Die Tryin', told his crew members to release as much music as possible before 50 is too powerful. That was right before Jay-Z fake retired. Shady, Aftermath and G.O.A.T were taking over, so Jay wouldn't be able to belittle him the way he did Nas, cause album sales and popularity was one of his main arguments in his diss tracks. In the 90s though, M wouldn't stand a chance. But Jay getting outshined on Renegade and Nas making fun of it left a visible mark on him. You could tell that it's been bothering him ever since Nas said that line.
Eminem murdered you on your own shit.
You could see how Jay lost all his confidence over the years. And that was all thanks to Ether. I can see how M would make fun of it, poke him and use it as a punchline while simultaneously getting the support from Nas fans. Prime against Prime, M was probably the more skilled MC. If you have a list with 100 different criteria for rapping, M would be superior in more than 50 of them. And some people also might deduct points from Jay for biting more than 50 bars from the Notorious B.I.G. I covered that in the beef analysis for Biggie, Nas and Jay. That being said, I wouldn't be mad if you had picked Jay-Z in this round. But it's very close though, both phenomenal MCs. Semifinals, Tupac over Rakim. Hurts to say this, but I have to agree with you. First things first, Tupac wouldn't have been the rapper he was without Rakim. He laid down the blueprint for all the top tier MCs in the 90s. That's why I never could be mad at people for picking him over Pac. In part 4 I explained some of the things he did for hip hop. Rakim was probably the superior lyricist, especially in terms of vocabulary, rhyme schemes, metaphors and wordplay. Tupac on the other hand had more passion, a better delivery, more energy, was more personal and introspective, political and socially conscious, had a superior flow, cadence, could write better songs in a shorter amount of time, a better work ethic and used a larger variety of styles. Both have amazing catalogs, but I think Pac's is superior. He has more hits and his music is more relevant today than Rakim's. I also think he would have won in a battle. Pac wrote most of his classic diss records in less than an hour. His energy, delivery, style and in-your-face attitude, along with his ability to write the most personal songs both about himself and about his enemies on top of his superb production, are things that even the most lyrical rappers would struggle with. And it's not like Pac was a weak lyricist or anything. He could be lyrical if he wanted to, just like on his album Me Against the World. Pay attention to all the stylistic devices in his lyrics. The alliterations on If I Die Tonight, all the metaphors, wordplay and punchlines, it all depended on how much time he took for his lyrics. Most of the time he was just freestyling high and drunk in the studio, having fun while still sounding amazing and lyrical. Tupac has explained this numerous times in interviews. So yeah, I'm leaning more towards Pac here. But Rakim is still the god MC. Glad that he didn't get eliminated early like some of the other greats of this culture. Prodigy made it to the top 4, which is a little surprising. He was amazing, but I never really saw anybody ranking him that high. M is definitely the superior MC. Catalog-wise it's of course debatable, but me personally, nah, I'm not gonna pick one over the other. But still, impact and skill-wise, we have to give it to M. I don't think Prodigy could have defeated him in a battle, cause Eminem is superior in most aspects of rapping. Which brings us to the finals. There was never a moment in time when I had Eminem over Tupac. Impact, importance, influence, status and catalog-wise, I think it's very clear that Pac is superior. I personally would pick Me Against the World, All Eyes on Me and the Don Illuminati 7-Day Theory over the Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP and The Eminem Show. Pac also had the Thug Life Group Project, which is another classic to me. His first 2 albums and also all the posthumous releases. Are You Still Down, Still I Rise, Until the End of Time, Better Days. Those 4 are also classics to me. He also had Loyal to the Game and Pac's Life, which I didn't like at all. Kinda on the level of Revival, Relapse, Recovery and Encore. But all in all, most Pac albums that people don't consider classics are better than the ones of Eminem. That being said, I can still find songs from all the albums I just named that I love and play to this day. I love over 100 Eminem songs. Same with Pac. I actually made 2 top 100 lists for him in the past. But we have to keep in mind that Pac produced all of these songs in just 5 years, and that he probably didn't even reach his prime yet. Pac's catalog aged way better than Eminem's in my opinion. It has a lot more replay value, and his songs are overall more iconic, game-changing and memorable. Pac has hits about a large variety of topics that M never even rapped about. People always say that you can't bump Eminem's music in the car or hear in clubs. Pac made music for every occasion and you can bump it everywhere, in the car, in the clubs or at home, at parties, etc. He also has more songs that will land in a top 100 rap songs of all time list. Pac would definitely defeat him in a versus battle. M is a huge fan of him and studied his rapping style, especially his ability to express emotions and to make the most personal and heartfelt songs about family members, insecurities, fears, his childhood, shortcomings in life, trauma, depression, personal weaknesses, etc. Just listen to Tupac's Dear Mama, Letter to My Unborn and I Ain't Mad At Ya, and then to the Eminem songs Headlights, Mockingbird and When I'm Gone. You can hear the similarities and how M was inspired by him. Pac was actually one of the first and most prominent figures to do songs like that to that level. You could feel his pain and struggle in every song. That's something that Eminem has lost over the years. His technical skills, on the other hand, are superior. He has a better vocabulary, better punchlines, wordplay, rhyme schemes, and he has also used a wider variety of flows in his music, which doesn't necessarily mean that his flow is superior. In fact, there are thousands of people complaining about it. It's way easier to criticize or hate Eminem's music than Pac's, cause M's songwriting ability and vocal performance has decreased over the years. It had tons of ups and downs throughout his career, along with his cadence, flow, delivery, and overall style of rapping. A lot of people think that The Eminem Show was his last good album, and I personally didn't like his change in sound either. He became cornier, less personal, and his music overall felt like it lacked authenticity. It became very hard for me to feel for him when he tried to express emotions in songs that were supposed to be deep and introspective. I think the old Eminem was superior in those aspects. That's why most people prefer his older music. After his hiatus, he more and more evolved into the fast-rapping, yelling rap god Eminem, who's almost impossible to relate to. His new music oftentimes lacks content, substance and personal stories that don't sound forced and made up. Most of it doesn't sound like it's coming straight from the heart. I mean, that was the main reason why most Eminem fans fell in love with his music. He became more mechanic and robotic with his flow, but he has improved since then with albums like Kamikaze and Music to be Murdered By, which contains songs that are more enjoyable to me than Relapse, Recovery and Marshall Mathers LP 2. Of course, there are also songs that I hate on those albums, but I try to focus on the positive things to not become a blind hater like in the late 2000s. It took me like a decade to be able to enjoy his music again. That being said, I still prefer every single one of Tupac's posthumous albums over Eminem's recent music. So catalog and impact definitely goes to Tupac. In terms of skills, it's very hard for me to pick one over the other, as both had their own lane and were the best at the things they did. Pac was never a chopper-style rapper that experiments with syllables, and M was never a thug poet turned mafioso don. Pac's lyricism focused more on the message than the actual technicalities. He focused more on what to rap than how to rap. M knows how to rap in more ways and styles than Pac, but Pac rapped about more things than M. He was the superior storyteller and overall the better songwriter. His punchlines are more thought-provoking and meaningful cause it focuses more on the message. Eminem's punchlines, on the other hand, revolve more around double meanings, play on words, name drops and shock value. M is the better spitter and Pac is the better poet. Another interesting question is of course who would win in a battle. Both had their own share of battles and beefs, but the list of MCs Pac clashed with is more impressive than Eminem's. In part 1 of the tournament I listed some of the people who Tupac had a back and forth with. He has tons of amazing diss records, most notably Hit 'Em Up, Against All Odds, When We Ride on Our Enemies and Watch Your Mouth. And those are in my opinion superior to Eminem's. Pac didn't require the most advanced technical skills to make the best diss records. Cause again, he didn't focus much on how he rapped, he focused more on what he rapped. He always did his homework on everybody he was battling with, and attacked them on a personal level, while portraying himself as superior, not only in terms of rapping skills, but also music, impact, influence, sales, and overall status in the game. He did his research on everybody's weak points, was a strategist, and great at finding attack surface. Brought up things like Prodigy's sickle cell anemia, Nas's sudden switch in style to appear more like a gangster while accusing him of biting his lifestyle, Jay-Z not being a real drug dealer, rather a skinny nerd with Hawaiian shirts who faked his whole life story to sell records, the things he said about Biggie and his wife, and of course all those accusations about Dr. Dre's sexuality. Always straight to the point, personal, in your face and aggressive. This song's with way more replay value than Eminem's and most rappers' entire catalogs. M on the other hand was more of a comedian when he battled. I definitely would have loved to see how a battle between those two would look like. I mean, there's no question that Pac would have killed Eminem in a battle during the time he was alive and rapping, which was a time interval between 1989 and 1996. They were both around the same age, but it took M way longer to mature and to become dope. Cause Infinite M was still far from a top MC. It took him 3 additional years to enter his prime. In 1999, Eminem was already 27, and Pac didn't even live that long. I mean, M's prime was in his late 20s and early 30s. Pac had accomplished everything at a way younger age, and we don't even know if he had fully reached his prime yet. So God knows how much he would have improved until 1999. He would be 28 at that point. I still to this day believe that those two would eventually clash at the top and battle on records. Cause Pac was affiliated with Suge Knight and Death Row, while M was close to Dr. Dre and Aftermath. In his final days, Pac was still in war mode. He was dissing Dre in the last video he ever recorded, and wanted revenge for him leaving Death Row. But Pac would not only diss his enemies, but also everyone they were affiliated with. Suge even sent goons at Eminem and Dr. Dre on multiple occasions, which I talked about in the beef analysis for Eminem and The Outsiders. Death Row versus Aftermath was a thing, even after Pac was gone. Now imagine what would have happened if he survived. That would have been one of the greatest battles of all time, and I personally think that Pac would have been the victor. But let me know what you think. As a bonus round, I added additional multiple choice polls for the rappers that got eliminated in each round, in order to rank them in their individual groups, so that we have a full top 64 ranking. Here are the poll results for the first 16 rappers that got eliminated in round 1 of bracket 32.5. As you can see, Cassidy got the least amount of votes and became number 64 in our ranking. Next we have Papoose at number 63, Playboi Carti 62, Vince Staples 61, Nelly number 60, DJ Quick 59, Master Ace 58, PMD 57, Lupe Fiasco 56, Childish Gambino number 55, Juice WRLD 54, AZ 53, Fat Joe 52, Cool G Rap 51, Jadakiss 50, and Nate Dogg became our number 49. The next 8 got kicked out in round 2. Rick Ross number 48, King Crook number 47, Kid Cudi 46, Eric Sermon 45, Tech 9 44, Denzel Curry 43, Mos Def 42, and Busta Rhymes became our number 41. The next 4 rappers got kicked out in round 3. Joyner Lucas number 40, DMC number 39, Exhibit 38, and RZA number 37. The last poll of bracket 32.5 was for the ones that got kicked out during the semifinals. ODB and LL Cool J became number 36 and number 35. Snoop and Ghost made it to the finals, so they're automatically number 34 and number 33. I also made these polls for the final bracket. The first 16 rappers ranked from worst to best. Ice-T number 32, Proof 31, MC Ren 30, Royce the 5'9" at number 29, Scarface 28, Lil Wayne 27, Lauryn Hill 26, Redman 25, KRS-One number 24, Big Pun 23, J. Cole 22, DMX 21, Big L 20, Ice Cube 19, The Notorious B.I.G. at number 18, and Nas at 17. In our ranking for round 2, Master Killer had the least amount of votes and became our number 16. Q-Tip number 15, Kanye 14, Black Thought 13, Big Daddy Kane number 12, Eazy-E 11, Method Man number 10, and Dr. Dre became number 9. The next 4 got eliminated in round 3. 50 Cent had the least amount of votes and became our number 8. MF Doom number 7, Jay-Z number 6, and Kendrick Lamar number 5. Semi-finals, Rakim got more votes than Prodigy, which means he became our number 3 and Prodigy number 4. And in the finals we saw Tupac lose after a nice head-to-head race for 48 hours, which makes him our number 2 and Eminem the winner of this tournament, meaning the number 1 in our ranking. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tournament as much as me. Let me know how you would rank these rappers and if you want another tournament anytime soon. Special shout out to everyone who took part in the votings, and to each and every one of my supporters. See you in the next video.